Maybe they always had it right, Maybe they had it right before we went digital.
It's probably the European Union forcing them for, reasons, for power-saving reasons.
That's exactly right. What's going on in Europe, mate? What are they doing over there?
They're living life. Leave them be.
Leave them be. Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. I know we've indulged in a bit of
Euro bashing
on this podcast, and we have in the past. I put my hand up.
Yeah, but we've also some Euro loving, I'd say, as well.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think we're balanced. I mean, pound for pound, are they producing a lot of billion-dollar startups? Oh, there's some fintechs. There's some good stuff. They've outputted this and that.
Mm.
But life's not all about billion-dollar startups.
No.
You might be convinced otherwise listening to this podcast, because we do go on a bit on that subject. The subject of all those zeros and customers and sales and software and all the rest of it. But
yeah,
sometimes it's all about...
How about a lager on a stony beach?
A lot of the most disgusting beach you've ever seen.
Data centers, folks. Data centers.
So it's not a mea culpa, but we're going to step back a bit. We haven't got this feedback specifically, but I'm sort of reaching deep into my heart for this one. I think that we've gotten a bit of our skis with some data center stuff.
We just throw around terms like neo cloud.
We throw around crazy terms. We talk about deals. We talk about all these sorts of stuff. It's one of the biggest subjects in the world right now, but I don't think we've ever really pumped our foot on the brakes and said, what the hell is going on with data centers?
What is a data center?
What is it? Well, number one, what is a data center?
Yeah.
What are the stakes here? What's actually going on? I know that we've gotten very in the weeds on this stuff. So we thought, for the kids at the back of the bus who are listening to this podcast and are like, what the hell are you talking about? This episode's for you.
Why is everyone talking about damn data centers? What are they? What's their importance? What do they do? Why are they some of the biggest companies in Australia, or at least, that have grown in value as some of the biggest companies in Australia over the last little while? Great. And then on the second episode, what were we going to talk about again?
The robot.
Oh, yeah, the robot. Yeah.
There's a few little bits and pieces, but primarily for fans of having a guy in your house, a new robotic man in your house to do tasks.
Yeah.
It's here today. Yeah. They've released one.
Yeah, you can buy one.
You can buy it for $30,000 or something.
Yeah.
Plus $500 a month.
I think it's okay. But on a contract.
Anyway, we're going to return.
We'll touch on that.
We'll return to that in our paid episode. But for now, it's data centers, folks. And the reason that we're talking about it today, apart from, that little mea culpa about not bringing a lot of you along on the ride as we explain how these things work, is an Australian angle. So for people that are like, what is the Australian angle? Here it is.
Yeah.
Iron.
A good 65% of the audience, I won't listen to it unless there's an Australian angle.
Iron, formerly known as Iris Energy, is a data center company / Bitcoin miner, Sydney headquartered, but listed on the NASDAQ, has been pumping over the past year.
And they're not the only one. And this
not
is
the
what
only
we'll get
one.
into.
Not the only one, but they have signed a deal. Sydney boys made good, a couple of ex-Macquarie guys.
The Millionaire Factory.
The Millionaire Factory. They inked a $9.7 billion deal with Microsoft to supply AI cloud compute.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Starting as a Bitcoin mining operation.
Starting as a Bitcoin mining operation.
Why exactly is that the case? And this is the case with many of the, again, so-called neo clouds, which we'll get into what that means in a minute as well. Many of them were Bitcoin adjacent or Ethereum adjacent.
Yep. There was a lot of crypto guys. So we're going to explain that crypto to AI transition. But all right, let's start at the beginning.
What is a data center?
What is a data center? It's a big building.
Yes.
Big building.
Big building with access to electricity.
Big building with, exactly.
But basically, we've talked about it before. What's the cloud? Someone else's computer.
It's someone else's computer.
What is cloud computing? Well, okay. Let's go back very quickly. I wanted to have a website in the 90s. I bought a bunch of Cisco gear and put some Oracle databases on them. I basically had a bunch of quote-unquote servers. Maybe we should talk about servers. A server is basically a computer without a monitor.
Okay, there we go. A little bit fundamentally.
Okay, but if I wanted a website, I had a bunch of computers in my house that hosted in my house, maybe in your house or in your business, that hosted your website. And so anytime I use the internet and I wanted to connect with, the PepsiCo.com, because I wanted to.
Well, that was your personal website, was PepsiCo.com.
No, I'm just saying that's the website I might have gone to in the 90s.
Okay, sure.
Or a cool website like thenews.com, yahoo.com.
Okay.
No, I'm trying to think like Colgate-Palmolive. If you're like a company that had a website, like a generic company.
You're picking crazy examples. Colgate-Palmolive,
I can't
PepsiCo.
think of the perfect example. I've got a website, and it's Colgate-Palmolive because I sell toothpaste and kitchen goods and whatnot.
Okay.
In order to have that website,
Yep.
I buy a bunch of gear and store them in a room of my building.
Yep.
And when you, James, want to look up your favorite website,
Colgate-Palmolive.com.
your computer connects to the computer in the Colgate-Palmolive offices.
Yeah.
And downloads that information to your computer so you can read about it.
Through some intermediaries, but yeah.
This is the time before CDNs and whatnot, mate.
Sure.
It's basically like, you're through an ISP. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, one.
Okay. And yeah, whatever. Let's just assume that for the moment. Cool. That is obviously turned out to be less efficient than a centralized place that has, in the first instance, I think data centers were more like you have your own gear and you just rent space in a data center. You actually send your own gear to them, or you buy gear and send it. And they have like racks. They have space in their data center, and they just deal with like electricity, cooling, managing it or whatever. But actually, all you rent is space itself. Then this evolves to, instead of just space, they actually buy the computers that store all your stuff on. And it could be internal stuff, databases, whatever, like customer databases, all this stuff, whatever. They buy the computers and you rent the computers off them in a data center.
Yeah.
And that, for the most part, that has not changed.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's history of a data center.
The history of the data center, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is something we've talked about in the past as well, is that, Amazon came up with the wonderful idea, which they executed through Amazon Web Services, of having cloud computing that happened in these data centers. You could not just store things there and store websites, but you could run applications over there, rent actual compute power and compute time.
Exactly, as a service. So instead of like VPNing into your own boxes in a data center that was specifically yours, it's like, we will give you the tools to build your app basically within us on our things. We'll handle where it's distributed to, we'll handle it if it's like international. We can make sure we can distribute it across the world. But you're more and more abstracted away from the actual like equipment that's being used.
Yeah, exactly. So
you still can hire like in AWS, like one cloud instance of a CPU. Like that's still like a normal thing you can kind of do. It's just like buy instances of, I say CPUs, like processors, computers, basically. You can still like buy, like I want 100 computers just waiting there for me to run my workloads on them or whatever. But even then it's like, is it a specific one that you're buying, or is it kind of the equivalent of one distributed across their entire
which it probably is. Yeah. And this has been like the foundation for the internet and for the like computing apps. It's how everything is run for the past 20 years.
That's why everything now is a website.
Everything runs via a web view or a website. Everything is web adjacent because it all runs on AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud or one of a handful of other providers.
Linode.
And
Cloudflare has their own offerings.
And this meant you could leverage, and like, here's the great unlock for this data center stuff. Keeping in mind, Amazon builds tons of data centers. They build them out in remote areas of various countries, racks and racks and racks of server space and storage and hard drives and processors and graphics units sitting in these blinking racks, all connected up with an insane cabling situation.
Yeah.
There are people whose entire job is to do cabling.
I mean, there's entire networking businesses that are pumping right now.
Yeah, whose stocks are exploding because their entire job is like...
They're connecting Ethernet together.
Yeah, plugging. You know how much you enjoy doing that at home when you're like leaning over the back of your desk and being like, where the fuck is this USB going? Fuck, it's the hub. And the hub is plugged in over it. There's a guy whose job is that. There are many guys whose job is that.
Yeah.
They put in 40 hours a weweek plugging shit in. Does that not just make you sick?
Mostly plugging in, less so unplugging things.
Yeah, they try. If they're doing what you're doing at the back of your iMac on your desk at home, where they're unplugging shit, they're like, fuck, this hard. Something's gone horribly wrong. You cannot do that in a data center. Anyway, but this is sort of this unlocked the modern internet economy.
Yeah.
Because if you made an app, you didn't have to worry about, oh fuck, where is all this data being stored? How am I processing all this user behavior?
Yeah.
You just said, I sign up with Amazon Web Services. I've got a bucket that stores all this data, and all the processing happens on the cloud, and I can set it up relatively smoothly and easily. And most importantly, it scales.
Yeah.
As I get more users, I just pay Amazon more, and they allocate me more compute.
Yeah. And as users save more data, I'm just renting more hard drives.
Yep.
You know, I don't have to worry at all.
No, and maybe at some point when you get to a big enough level, you can start running it yourself or have your own data centers.
But seemingly that level nowadays is
it's pretty rare.
It's colossal. Like, it's like some of the biggest companies don't.
Netflix runs cloud compute.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Twitter is mostly on someone else's servers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this big. You're huge.
Yeah.
To the point. I think the Basecamp guys have like been talking about, but they're pretty kind of unorthodox when it comes to like their way of thinking. They've like over the last year moved all their stuff on prem because they're and off Amazon.
And if you reach a certain scale, you start having a really big scale. You start having your own data centers.
It's obviously your own problem. It makes it your own problem.
Yeah.
Which, then you're employing a bunch of people who, as you say, are plugging cables in and out.
Totally. Obviously, there's Amazon and Microsoft Azure. We've talked about the past in the rankings. Amazon is top of the game in terms of cloud computing, which is running on data centers, followed by Microsoft Azure, followed in distant third place by Google Cloud. They're doing their own things now to improve that. But the reason the data centers have...
And then Oracle. We probably have to include Oracle now.
Yes.
Because they have one huge client.
Yeah, exactly. Oracle used to be like the default database.
But it was on-prem. Like, as I said, it was back in the day when at Colgate-Palmolive.
Colgate-Palmolive they were running everything in the basement, yeah. But the reason that you've been hearing about data centers so much over the past few years, all that stuff was a solved problem, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Amazon was growing. Azure was growing. They were building more data centers wherever.
Yeah.
But you're hearing about it a lot now because of AI.
Yeah.
And AI has changed the game. Well, actually, this is actually a good point to talk about the crypto stuff. Because the crypto stuff started to change what was happening quite a lot. Because obviously, we haven't talked about crypto in a while because nothing has really compelled us to. I think with the fullness of time, we can look back and say, what are the two things that came out of crypto? Stable coins.
Yeah.
They still seem to like a live thing.
Yeah.
Governments around the world are thinking about them. Big businesses are doing stablecoin stuff just for like payments.
Yeah.
Not like crazy libertarian self-custody, running your own life, your own digital, none of that crap. That didn't really take off.
No.
But stablecoins seem to have some payment rails value.
Yeah, there might be some. It seems to be cheaper and potentially easier in some circumstances to move USD or euros around or renminbi around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Using stablecoins. No fucking, staking or like...
Yeah, exactly. NFTs, none of that crap happened.
It's just like US dollars or euros or,
Yeah.
You can move... It's just like a slightly different way to move them around.
Yeah, maybe slightly more efficient. Jury's out. But it seems some people think it is. And the other one is like GPUs and data processing.
Yeah, although I should say, we've got to say Bitcoin is a thing still.
Oh, yeah. I think that's true. Bitcoin, I don't think Bitcoin's ever going to go away.
Yeah, I mean...
It's just part of...
In one way or another. It's still impossible for me to actually put a value on it. The value still is not tethered to anything. Like, there's like... It is still just this completely abstract...
Digital gold. In the same way the gold is, people... I mean, at the very least, many of the civilizations of Earth valued gold independently. Yes. They were like, look at that shiny as hell rock. That rules.
And I guess that's kind of what's happening with Bitcoin, though, to a certain extent.
Yeah,
it's less tangible but it's because, it doesn't make shiny, cool things.
Gold doesn't need to be explained to you. No. Someone puts a big nugget in front of you.
Yeah.
You're like, that rocks.
Someone puts a Bitcoin address in front of you.
You're like, what the hell is that string of numbers? And then they got to explain Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, it's pretty easy compared to gold. You're right.
I reckon someone who was raised in complete isolation as a science experiment and released at the age of 30, and you give them a gold ring with a big fat diamond on it, they'll be like, that rocks. Bitcoin doesn't have that.
No, it does not.
It's got too much guys explaining stuff to you.
Yeah. Sweaty guys.
Sweaty. Yeah, totally. Don't do that with gold, folks. Anyway,
but it does persist. And,
it persists.
But yes, anyway.
The other one is data. So a lot of people forget this, but this was back when NVIDIA was still executing their long-run CUDA plan.
Yeah.
Like their whole point to become a machine learning platform where people did all the training, whatever. They stock
So
price.
we should, if we're doing this as a 101, NVIDIA was still planning their long-run CUDA plan. Like, they had...
They'll go to
NVIDIA was like, this AI thing's going to be big.
Yeah, the machine learning AI training. They rolled the dice on their GPUs or graphics cards being a platform for machine learning and software development.
But no one else was on board yet.
No one was on board, and it still hadn't borne fruit.
No.
Anyway, mining Bitcoin and mining Ether, but it used to be the case before it moved over to a proof of stake rather than proof of work. Fucking hell. I haven't had reason to think about that in 2 years. Proof of stake versus proof of work.
Yeah.
Jesus. And if you haven't heard it before, don't worry. Don't worry about worrying about that.
One thing to keep in mind with so Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, again, very quickly, if you're not across it, because we're trying to keep this, rudimentary, is that in order for Bitcoins to be sent from one person to another, you needed third parties to basically validate it. And they were called Bitcoin miners. And in order to validate the transaction, which involved a bunch of bullshit, got a tiny little bit of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. You were paid to validate things and the way that they actually worked mechanically is that your computer would crunch a bunch of difficult equations.
Yeah, only one of which was actually... Yeah, anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Highly inefficient, as everyone complained about at the time. But the point is that in order to do this efficiently, to be a Bitcoin miner, you needed a shitload of graphics cards. Some of them were specific to Bitcoin mining graphic cards. That what they call them?
ASICs?
Custom ASIC.
Yeah.
An application-specific integrated circuit.
I think that's right.
The point was you basically needed electricity to be cheap. You needed the amount of Bitcoins, this marginal amount of Bitcoin that you got to somehow be, you need your power to be cheaper and your equipment to be cheaper in the long run once it's depreciated. You needed to somehow eke out a margin that way, which meant pumping a bunch of graphics cards or ASICs in a warehouse where electricity was cheap and cooling was cheap, etc. And you're really trying to optimize this down, basically, right?
Yeah. Other gap here was that we talked about how everyone had data centers. There were heaps of data centers around. Amazon had a bunch, Microsoft had a bunch, Google had a bunch, Apple had a bunch. Everyone had a bunch of data centers. But they were mostly, CPUs, storage. They didn't have a huge GPU contingent.
Yeah.
That was relatively
because there wasn't
small.
a lot of graphics processing going on.
No.
Because typically when you think about graphics, it's rendering
stuff.
It's rendering video.
Rendering farms video.
And so if you're in cloud computing, what that actually means is you're rendering a video somewhere else and then having to download that video in real time. There's just not that many applications for that.
There were people doing it. And obviously there were graphics units and GPUs inside regular data centers, but it wasn't the main game. However, you need
and they weren't beasts typically. They were just standard efficient things.
Yeah.
I remember sorry to go off piece, but when the image stuff first came out. So we did a meeting tree video, an AI meeting tree video for the song Caps Should Be a Human Right, featuring Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the UN.
Do you still believe the message of that song?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Hey,
I do. I still think marijuana should be banned.
Yep.
But MDMA?
MDMA should be legal. I think it's a nice, clean one-for-one trade.
Yeah. Let's swap them out, folks.
Just for a few years and see what happens.
This is a moment of extreme change and innovation and possibility.
Exactly.
Anyway, we ran that on a Google. You could do this. What are they called? It's like a Google project instance where we rented GPUs off Google, but they were the Tesla GPUs, whatever they are, nothing to do with the cars, but they were basic GPUs. You could just we ran these like AI workloads for image generation that we stitched into like a video or whatever, but off like. But, it wasn't like we're not talking about fucking Blackwell, NVIDIA, big dogs. It was just something you could put in your own computer.
Yep, absolutely. So as we said, most data centers did not have a whole lot of GPUs as part of the mix, but GPUs, and
All
again,
of a sudden,
without getting too into it, but in the really simple formulation for those who don't know, the CPUs, the brain of your computer, it does lots of like complex equations sequentially, one after the other at an incredible high speed. GPUs do a bunch of really, really simple calculations in parallel, thousands and thousands at once. That was really good for Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
So GPUs are really good at that in the way that CPUs were not.
No.
So all of a sudden, you needed warehouses full of GPUs, which wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't a thing people did.
No.
And so, as you said, all of these random guys and companies were like, fuck.
It's free money.
This is free money. All we need to do is set up in places where electricity is dirt fucking cheap as we can get it. We can hook up to water and power and all the rest of it. We can get as many graphics chips as we can. So, and some of them did like the custom ones as we're talking about, but for many of them, it was like off the shelf NVIDIA hardware. Again, when the majority of NVIDIA's business was not workstation stuff, it was graphics cards for PCs and gamers were buying them.
Yeah.
And this is, you may recall, gamers were really pissed off during this period.
Yeah. Well, the price of brick went up. Price of graphics
price of brick went up.
Yeah, it went crazy. And to NVIDIA's credit, they tried to nerf them for Bitcoin mining. They were like, we actually don't want, because it is good foresight, because in the back they're going like, this AI shit's coming and it's going to pump, and you're pissing off the gamers, which is always causes problems. And
a volatile consumer segment.
And they're like, we don't want you to doing this crap with our chips, and so they like tried to nerf them for Bitcoin mining. So then the Bitcoin miners like bought them and then removed the nerfing thing and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was crazy, and like you're right. They were out there being like, this is not what we want. People to be buying our chips for, even though even back then it was seen in their stock price rocketing. Like they pumped back then.
But it dived after they were like, no, like we're nerfing all this stuff. Like just before AI, Nvidia stock was in the toilet. Yeah. 3 months before ChatGPT was released, it was like in the toilet.
Yeah, because of exactly. So anyway, but this was the big thing. This basically foreran the current moment we're in, because all of a sudden, all of these companies and these weird setups like Iron is one the one I just talked about, the Sydney-based company. Sydney-based, but they actually don't have data centers in Australia. They're all in Texas. Part of the reason why they're listed on the NASDAQ and American investors and whatever. But yes, a couple of Macquarie boys started that up. All these companies had these giant data centers that they had built in places like Texas, in places like Kazakhstan. Remember China banned this as well. China banned Bitcoin mining. Maybe they also saw the AI stuff coming. They were like, we have more productive stuff to be doing than people building giant warehouses full of graphics chips in Yangtze province or whatever. And a lot of these companies that did that set up to mine Bitcoin, mine Ether, had all these setups. Because again, the other part to notice is that, and this is probably the hardest part about building data centers today, is it's not just getting the chips, which is also a bit of an ordeal, because especially now that you're trying to get NVIDIA chips to fill it up, you got to have the supplier relationship, very highly in demand. Yeah. So
very expensive,
incredibly expensive.
But yeah, very hard. You are competing. Every single company in the world wants more NVIDIA chips, and supply is massively constrained.
Hugely constrained. Every company wants them. Sovereign nations want them to build up their own supplies. This is why Jensen Huang is having a great time in South Korean chicken restaurants.
Yes.
As you may have seen the photo of him. So not only is that, but you also building anything anywhere is hard.
Yes.
You got to get, especially something that's, a data center, even before you get to all the environmental arguments people have, it's a piece of heavy industry.
Yeah.
It's a giant building that's got to be somewhere nice and flat, that has
temperate climate,
got to have power hookup.
Access to a significant amount of power.
Yep.
There's some access to some some water. Although apparently, like, the water thing is a little bit overstated, how much they need.
Yes.
But yeah, you've got to build a huge fucking warehouse factory. It's also, I feel like people, some of the criticism, because we're about to get into the bubble chat, these things are harder to manage than I think people give them credit for. If you have a huge amount of, in this case, GPUs running, and you get a big workload in from whatever Google or AWS is like distributing a workload across a whole bunch of GPUs using CUDA, which NVIDIA's software layer, whatever. Fuck, we're getting whatever. But that's tough. That's tough to do.
Orchestration stuff. It's hard.
Yeah, like distributed accelerated computing is not easy. Not easy. And even the networking stuff and managing it all and the cooling at scale, this is it's hard to do. It's not that hard.
Let's be clear. It's not like making the models themselves.
Exactly. It's what I mean. It's like, it's not, but there is a level of expertise.
No, I 100% agree. Sorry, I will say, because I was going to mention about Iron. Their big innovation is that they built them all next to areas that had excess energy from renewables, wind and hydro. So it was like, let's find places where they're outputting more than they're using and able to distribute back into the grid. And we're going to build a fat data center there to soak up that power. And that's what a lot of these companies did. And this comes to this whole, like, Iron is one of them. CoreWeave in the US is another one. There's a whole bunch of them. And they get called
neoclouds.
Which is really, it's a buzzword.
Whenever I hear it, and when I hear it like in chip circles or whatever, I hear neocloud brackets derogatory.
Yeah, it's a little bit derogatory.
But on the flip side, neocloud on the stock market at the moment seemingly means that, like, to the moon.
Yeah. In practical terms, it means someone who is offering high-performance computing cloud data centers.
Well, it's a warehouse full of NVIDIA chips.
But is not Google, Microsoft, Amazon.
You can't directly go to them and, like, build on top of them. They are subletting out effectively to... typically those three, and OpenAI.
And all the rest of it.
And Oracle and whatnot.
Here's the narrative that you're seeing coming out. This is one of the reasons why Iron, this Australian company, is absolutely pumping. They're doing great, whatever. One of the big reasons is that all these companies just want compute. They don't fucking care where it's come from.
They have more demand than what they have access to. And we talked about this previously. There's more demand for graphics cards for NVIDIA GPUs. And I know, I've said this before, I will always call them graphics card. I know that they're not doing anything to do with graphics anymore. In fact, you can't even run Quake on them or whatever you guys play.
You got to respect the gamers. You respect the history.
Respect the history. I will call them graphics cards. But, Blackwells, these big accelerated computing systems that are worth more than $1 million and whatnot. NVIDIA they could just sell all their shit to Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google.
Yep.
And Oracle.
You should have met. Meta's another one of the companies who obviously have their own data centers.
But they only use it for themselves. You can't buy it off Meta. It's just they're so fucking big that, like, they need the same scale as these other companies
to show you reels.
Exactly. They could just sell to them. Like, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where your customers, well, you're the biggest company in the world, it turns out. Your customers are like 2, 3, 4, and 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Apple obviously is in there as well, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want your biggest customers to have that much leverage and power. So from the outset, CoreWeave is the big one, but NVIDIA has been supporting these neoclouds. And I think Jensen said, like, he wants there to be at least 200 to 300 neoclouds that are like primary supply, that NVIDIA is a primary supplier to. Yeah. It's in his interest for, like, all these other parties to be also getting graphics cards at the expense of, because everything's at the expense of someone, because every single thing is sold out for years in advance. The big cloud players who then have to, as you said, rent off. Microsoft has to go to these Macquarie Bank boys and be like, we need to bring your capacity online.
Yep.
And, like, again, you can see this in the recent earnings of Microsoft and Google in particular. You saw revenue actually not increasing nearly as much as margin within the cloud computing, which suggests, well, it's obvious, and they didn't say it verbally, so you don't have to even look at those numbers, but it's like we have more demand than we have supply. So that way we can increase margin, but, like, we can't supply anymore. And even Satya was saying, and this is the other interesting thing about, like, these neoclouds or whatever, Microsoft, like, we have Grace Blackwells and we have Hoppers, we have graphics cards that we can't plug in. because we have no space for them or power for them.
Yes, space and power. That was the really interesting thing that Satya Nadella said. Yeah, that like the bottleneck is not the chips or the capacity. It's just the fact that a lot of these are sitting around collecting dust because we have no buildings to put them in, and there is not enough power on the grid.
Yeah,
to power them, which is kind of crazy. And yes, this would be if you're going bull bear on the AI boom, and like, is it a bubble? Is it not a bubble? We could obviously have that conversation, but it's also like there's clearly a bit more headroom in this.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, like, at least give it a year, folks, because demand is significantly outstripping supply. And this isn't just like there is we've mentioned it, the like circular revenue, like stuff. Yeah. Like there is some like weird little things going on here. Not little, like weird, huge things going on here with Pastra CapEx and whatever it is, like who's booking what, off balance sheet,
crap. Yeah.
Like all this stuff is going on. But at the end of the day, Caterpillar, the company that Caterpillar makes fucking, tractors and
exactly.
and excavators,
earth movers and shit.
Movers, but they also like build out, like they have like certain systems for like power centers. Their stock's going to the moon because people are digging and they're building. People are building shit. Real stuff is being built.
Yes. No, absolutely. And data centers are springing up all over the joint, especially over America. And this is, for the Australian angle as well, the Australian government would very much like a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And there's lots of conversations about how can we speed up the permissioning side of things so that like data centers can be built in Australian regional areas more easily without having to go through layers and layers of different layers of governments permissioning and approvals and all the rest of it, and get power hookups and build renewable energy projects to power them and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit chicken and egg with power and data center, all that kind of stuff, because Australia would love to be the data center hub of Southeast Asia.
Which I think that it's a space that we could play it if anyone's really bored. I did a Substack article where I go through the entire AI supply chain and identify where Australia can actually make some money. And it's basically nowhere, spoiler alert, other than potentially data centers and in particular being like a renewable data center kind of capital of the world.
Yeah.
And like, Southeast Asia in particular, but also there's no reason why OpenAI can't fucking train their models in Australia if we're running off 100% renewables. That's good for everyone. It's blah, 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 blah.
Totally.
Like that is a space that we can play in and then build that expertise.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's also there's an interesting future where if this AI stuff continues to roll along, and, there's every reason to think it will in some form, the current setup for, a company like Netflix will set up a whole bunch of CDNs or content delivery networks in Australia. So they'll have servers that are in Australia that have like their library of content sitting on it.
Yeah.
That will, if you are sitting in your house and you're like, I would like to watch fucking Squid Game, it's sitting on a server in some Netflix facility or box.
Yeah. Probably a few kilometers away.
Not that far away from you.
Yeah.
And then it gets delivered to the NBN or whatever to your house. And it's like, great. No buffering. Love it. And that every fucking platform has this.
Yeah.
Like if they've got a significant Australian user base, they're going to have CDNs in Australia where they keep their content or whatever.
Yeah. Or you use Cloudflare to kind of do it for you.
Exactly. Cloudflare does it, whatever. If we get into the future where everything's generative and you're using a fucking AI assistant or like a suck bot that's sucking you off in 9 dimensions or whatever it is, you're talking about running like AI inference at the edge.
Yeah.
We may need to be in a place where you need something that's less like a content box and more like
doing computations.
Doing computation.
But close to you. Yeah.
And that starts to sound more like a data center or a mini data center or whatever. Because, if you're using a 3D bloody assistant that's appears on your smart glasses. I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, like if you're just using like a bot that's recording everything you do on your screen.
Okay. Okay. Let's do something a little bit less crazy. Let's bring it down to earth. You don't want delay. In fact, delay ruins the experience. Like it needs to be running inference and all the stuff that it's giving you. Inference being obviously, outputting stuff from an LLM or an AI model, not just the training, because everyone always thinks it's about training and a lot of the conversations, but it's also like, how do you run ChatGPT?
Yeah.
And it will get to the point where ChatGPT itself and OpenAI will definitely want local facilities in Australia that are doing inference.
Yeah.
No question. That's when it starts to be the case that this is what these data centers are doing. It's not just... It's actually running inference on commands people are giving it in real time.
Yeah. Now that's that's the vanilla, I would say. I think that these stocks are highly overvalued. A lot of them.
Yeah.
This is my opinion, not financial advice, etc., etc., etc. A few things. One, as I said before, yes, there is definitely some skill at running, networked, accelerated computing at scale. But that said, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these companies around the world. It's hard, but not that hard.
Yeah, the neo cloud stuff, definitely operational excellence, definitely great relationships with local authorities. When you've laid down the concrete slab and you have a data center, that's great.
Yes.
Because you've got a building and it's got...
That's effectively, that's the moat.
That's the moat, is like... You have the same moat as like a Lebanese construction company in Sydney.
Yes.
There's a lot of expertise in those as well.
Exactly. So I would say, because these companies are being valued with huge tech multiples, blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
When
they're not tech companies.
At the end of the day, what they're doing is they have space, cheap access to power, a bunch of graphics cards that they then rent out to people. That is a low margin business with lots of competition right now, because effectively NVIDIA is picking winners to a certain extent. There is they have a little bit of a monopolization because, as you say, if there's capacity, Microsoft, Google, or Amazon is going to fucking buy you. And it's going to not buy you. They're going to give you these 10-year deals or whatever, or make investments in you, or do whatever they can to secure your compute so that they can on-sell it.
The margins are actually quite high at the moment because very capacity constrained.
Yeah.
You can charge whatever you like. You're getting massive cash injections from the hyperscalers because they need compute from anywhere.
Yeah, but again, that's just because NVIDIA can't produce enough GPUs to satisfy the market. So it's what then, once all of a sudden, in 3 or 4 years' time, 5 years, to value a company, obviously you're looking at their 10-year free cash flow discounted back.
Yes, sensibly.
So in 10 years' time, when AMD's online, more Google TPUs, Microsoft's got their own chip going, hopefully Amazon works out their Trainium bullshit, Broadcom, Qualcomm, they're all doing their own things, custom ASICs galore. What do you have if you're a quote-unquote neo-cloud? Is you effectively are just leasing out real estate with, a bit of expertise.
Yeah, a bit of a real
plugging some things together.
You do start to feel a bit of a WeWork vibe about it, to a certain extent. Getting tech multiples and that as a tech company when you really are a real estate /
a real estate investment trust thing.
A box you can put stuff into.
Again, I don't want to undermine the Air Trunks of shit of the world who are way bigger. Air Trunk wouldn't consider themselves a neo cloud, but the actual pro data centers or whatever. I do get there's a lot of core competencies in that.
I agree. Yeah.
But when you're hearing stuff basically farmers are having PE guys knocking on their door because they're close to a river, and so PE guys are going, I will offer you $50 million for your hobby farm so I can put some friggin' pumped hydro and then slab a concrete down and then I've got my mate's got a relationship with fucking NVIDIA and we'll get some fucking graphics cards in here.
Chips in here.
Exactly.
We'll kick down Sam Altman's door.
But allegedly this is just happening everywhere.
Yeah.
You've got private equity guys knocking on farmers' doors to buy up this land.
Yeah.
Again, I heard this was a story, a story that I heard of someone's friend or whatever who is in Microsoft, who's in the vetting a lot of these locations. And it's they've just got hundreds and hundreds of people. Some of them are legitimately, decent locations to build a data center. Many of them are just flippers. People who are just buying up shit anywhere and just trying to flip it because they know that they can just 10x buying up a little hobby farm or whatever. It's in real boom territory.
No, totally. And then there's also, there's this standard sleazy real estate angle where there are tons of property owners and property companies and real estate companies that are trying to get in this parcel up land, flog it off as prime locations for data centers and all the rest of it.
And not to mention, is it not skeezy enough that literally the Bitcoin miners fucking get to cash out?
Yeah, totally. Exactly. I mean, it is slightly infuriating that it so happened that the same, structure infrastructure requirements for just like printing internet funny money is also powering the fucking digital god they're trying to build.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, it's really unfortunate, but that is the case. And yes, all these companies, CoreWeave is one, Iron is another. There's a handful of other ones where they started in crypto mining back when, you know, it wasn't clear what was going to happen with AI. And it just so happens the same tech, the same foundational infrastructure works the same way. You know, it just goes to show, if you see something really, really stupid happening online, and there's a bunch of guys who are sort of like congregating around something that to you seems stupid, I'm suggesting to you, not financial advice, run at them. You need to run at them and listen to them. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of data center landscape currently. Yeah. That's what's happening. Yes, I agree with you. Every associated stock with anything that could be associated with data centers, be it the actual neo cloud companies themselves or the companies that do like fucking coolant.
Yeah, coolant's going crazy.
The cabling companies. Yeah. There's companies that just, there are businesses that make like industrial grade Ethernet cables.
Yeah. I mean,
that are just fucking pumping.
Insulation. There's like insulation companies that are just pumping.
Because they're doing a roaring trade on the back of these giant boxes being built out in farmland across America and the world at large.
Yeah.
And who knows where this goes. But it does, I think it's both a justification for the bubble thesis and also like a counterpoint in the sense that it's like stuff is getting, there's like picks and shovels. Like ground is being broken.
Yeah.
Groundwater is being poisoned to make these things. They're going up.
Yeah.
And
things are being
and they're
built.
going to be used. Like
right now it seems, as I said, all signs point to like, where's the demand coming from? Again, I think we talked about it last week or whatever, like TSMC were like, look, we've asked our customers, we went down, we asked our customers. And yes, it does seem like they all want to use this stuff. There is demand for AI build-outs. Are a lot of companies still in the exploration stage?
Yeah.
Like, yes, maybe. Are a lot of the customers finding it useful in customer service? Probably. You know, are they finding it useful in like their chatbot on their website is answering more questions and it means that like less stuff is coming through to customer service agents? Yeah, probably. Internally, are their staff finding it useful? Coding does seem like, I know some people will disagree, but it does seem like a lot of people are finding it very useful for coding. If your job is a programmer and you're using this shit 8 hours a day, like there's demand for this stuff.
There's demand for it. And also like, you know, even on the basic level of people using ChatGPT and for their daily inquiries.
Yeah.
I did hear something funny. Someone said to me this week, got a bit of an insight into how normies are using ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do tell. This is interesting to me, anthropologically. One of the women in like the mums group that my wife is in, they were having like a picnic or something. And then someone said, what happens if it rains? What do we have a plan B? And the woman who was organising it said, no, because I asked ChatGPT, is it going to rain tomorrow?
And
it said no.
That's crazy.
And then it did rain. I was like having a little minor freak out because I was like, that is the stupidest thing. That is maybe one of the things ChatGPT just cannot do.
Yeah.
Conclusively cannot do.
Yeah.
Where is it getting the information about whether it's going to rain tomorrow?
Yeah, well,
I don't trust it to browse a website to get
find that out.
info.
Because it could pull it from anywhere. It was going to rain in the 2-day 1972 baseball World Series, and it's like, yep.
Yeah. So, but the point I was getting at is that the data center requirements and the inference to just like run ChatGPT.
Yeah.
For normal people.
And as you say, like if that moves to the edge, it means there's only more demand for it. But yeah, point being, it's being used. People are using AI, folks.
Yeah. So that's your data center 101. I hope that illuminated a few things for people that have been trying to catch up with what the hell we've been talking about.
What the hell is a neocloud?
What the hell is a neocloud? I don't think we've actually said neocloud.
A neocloud is just a data center that's mostly graphics cards. That's what a neocloud
Pretty
is.
much, yeah. And it isn't run by one of the big ones. And also to close the loop on the skill question, just to end that, maybe we'll end on that point. Yes, I agree that it's like these are companies that are doing like infrastructure stuff. There's skill involved. You got to be a hustler. You got to move quickly. You got to blah, blah, blah. Skill. Like that. These are operational businesses that have a certain amount of operational expertise. But it's also the case that some of their biggest customers are pretty fucking good at doing this stuff.
Well,
too.
yeah, that is the other thing. It's like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon would rather not be paying a margin to them.
No.
They'd rather be doing it themselves.
And if we get to a point where it's like there's a little bit less strain on the chip production, TSMC has ramped up, whatever, is there maybe, I know right now it's the case where it's like, Microsoft's like, I don't care. If there's like a guy who's running a bunch of Blackwells in his basement, we'll pay him market rate for those.
Yeah.
Maybe higher. But in the future, is it like, does Google want to keep paying this constellation of like rando X Bitcoin, rando X Bitcoin miners?
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, there is an element of this, which is like, in order to secure the GPUs and also to secure the electricity prices that a lot of these neo clouds are doing, like they're entering into like literally like 50-year purchasing agreements in order to get like electricity at a certain price. They're taking on like this big risk of like, this like, big forward contract. Microsoft or Google come in and might make a 5-year deal. And like, if AI demand slightly drops off, cool, they're out of there. And then they're also knowing like they're making this whatever 5-year deal, 4 or 5 year deal, already knowing exactly what margin they're going to get off the top. They're not, it's not actually a huge capex here. They're not worrying about the depreciation of the goods. They're not worrying about the upkeep. And after 5 years, they can get out of there. If AI demand drops off in like 2, 3, 4 years, the neo clouds are stuck with these fucking 50-year purchasing deals that they've now got to somehow on-sell.
Yeah.
And, there's like an element here where like the neo clouds basically their value is like NVIDIA not wanting to sell every single one of their graphics cards to the hyperscalers, the big boys.
Yeah. And
B, like taking on those kind of 50-year contracts to the risk there. And then their margin is like selling that risk.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, good luck to them. Good luck to them for having a go. It's a bit cowboy, This is.
But there's money to be made, mate. There's money to be made.
Here's a wise remark to leave you on. The people who make the money in the first act of an infrastructure boom are the pirates. And the people who make the money in the last act of an infrastructure boom are the landlords.
Ain't that just true?
Ain't that the damn truth?
Sorry, speaking of that, we actually have one more thing to say. Job offer.
Oh, that's right.
The people, to all the pirates out there.
Well, this is about to, for someone who's listening, this is about to change your damn life. The trajectory of your life is about to change.
Or one of your, like maybe younger siblings. We're looking for a producer, and we thought we'd call it out here first before we put it on seek.com. I'm just joking. We're not going to put it on seek.com.
Yeah.
If you know someone maybe who might be trying to get in the game, we're looking for someone who can both like edit the pod, and we're probably going to be doing video again. So like edit some TikToks.
Yep.
That kind of thing. And, ideally lend their growth mindset to the podcast. Now, this is not a full-time job by any stretch of the imagination. This is 8 episodes a month. But, I think, and we also would like to offer the opportunity. In fact, there'll be like a growth, you can have a percentage of revenue.
There's a percentage of revenue.
So the upside is infinite. The upside is literally infinite.
It's completely contingent on the growth mindset you bring to the role. So if you have an interest in doing this, or you know someone and you want to recommend, reach out.
In particular, a youngster. Like, let's be frank, in the near term, you'll be earning above minimum wage.
Yep.
Marginally. But, so this isn't, I know a lot of our audience, let's be frank, when it comes to socioeconomic status, is in the higher categories.
As high as they come.
So, but someone who wants to...
Yeah, someone who's cracking in and wants to work on something as like an entry-level editing job.
Yeah.
Get some experience.
Hi at downround.net. As you said, though, upside potential is huge. Great work environment. Minimal benefits.
Very minimal.
But
and I just want to flag that occasionally Raf is prone to flying into a rage.
Yes, that'll happen.
I can put up with it. Maybe you won't be able to.
Hi at downround.net, though. Like, get in touch. Hi at downround.net.
Yep,
and
send us an email.
Send us an email. Let's see. Let's work. Let's fucking build.
It's time to build.